full-time as a tour guide my first 2 years. The past 2 years I've also been a pilot out here. A little bit more about myself. I was born and raised in this beautiful tourist trap of Wisconsin Dells. Graduated from the Wisconsin Dells High School last year, and I'm heading into my sophomore year of college at the University of Wisconsin Parkside in Kenosha, where I'm studying sport management with a minor in sport communication. And I actually head back down there tomorrow, so today is my last day out here. But as I said, I am a lifetime local, so if you guys have any questions about the river or about the area, things to do, places to eat, where to get the cheapest gas, or what it was like growing up in a tourist trap, feel free to ask, and if I don't know, I'm very good at making things up. So with that, I'll pass the mic off to our pilot today and let her introduce herself, the river, and the rules.
Why is he watching me?
It's watching everyone.
Well, thank you, Maddie. My name is Vanessa. I'll be your captain or pilot along the river here today. I'm currently a senior at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, studying communications and psychology with a minor in advertising. This is my 4th season out here with the boat tours. I've been a tour guide and pilot on the upper and lower dells of the river, and I'm very excited to take you all up and down the river here today. So thank you so much for joining us. Before we get too far upriver, I do have a few quick rules and regulations I need you all to follow. The first one is please stay seated. Once again, do please stay in a seat. We are on a moving object, moving objects moving past us. This boat may tend to rock and sway from time to time. We just don't want anyone falling over and getting hurt, or worse, falling over and getting wet. So do please stay in your seats. The second thing is absolutely no smoking aboard the boat. No smoking. This does include the usage of e-cigarettes and vapes. We are on top of 2 gasoline-powered engines. This boat was meant to float through the water, not fly through the air. I'm not that kind of pilot, and I would prefer to keep it that way, so please no smoking. And the last thing is, we just ask that you please keep any loud and or cell phone conversations down to a minimum while here on the boat. It's a lot like a movie or a play, and everyone wants to hear the lovely tour that Maddie is going to give. So to be courteous to her and to those around you, keep your conversations down to a whisper. So I'll get us started on our tour today. We are currently traveling on the Wisconsin River. It gets its headwaters up at a beautiful little lake called Loch View, and then travels south by southwest 432 miles across the state, emptying into the mighty Mississippi River near Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin, in Wyalusing State Park. Along its course, it drops 1,100 feet in elevation, making it perfect for the production of hydroelectricity. There's 26 dams here along the river, 21 are hydroelectric, the remaining 5 are for flood control. The first of those dams, built back by our home docks, the Kilbourne Dam, which was built in 1909. Back in its heyday, the Kilbourne Dam did power the entire city of Wisconsin Dells and the streetcars down in Milwaukee. It now powers about 10,000 area homes and businesses. So we're very lucky to have that part of the dam behind us. And as we leave the dam behind us, we're leaving behind us those things that didn't necessarily make the Dells famous in the first place, such as the water parks, the t-shirt shops, and the Upside Down White House. And you'll see today what makes the Dells truly famous, which is Maddie and myself. Yes, thank you. And the river and the rocks, I suppose. So hopefully you see why we keep coming back each and every summer. I'll pass the microphone back over to Maddie now. She gives an excellent tour. One may even call it tourific. Yeah, tourific. If you guys didn't like that joke, look around for your seatbelts and buckle up because this is going to be a long 2 hours. So, with that, sit back, relax, enjoy, and welcome aboard the Viking. Our first couple of rock formations here. First one's coming up off in front of the boat along our right hand side. You'll see that cliff standing about 65 feet tall coming up there. That one is known as High Rock. So as we get closer, go ahead and wave to it and say High Rock. High Rock. And directly across from High Rock, coming up off
exactly 10 feet taller than High Rock. That one is known as Romance Cliff. Romance Cliff and High Rock make what's known as the Jaws of the Upper Dells. They mark the spot in the river that is the very deepest at 110 feet deep. And they also mark the conjunction of 4 different counties, those being Adams, Columbia, Sauk, and Juneau. Did you know that? Come on up a little bit further off to our right-hand side here. You'll see a rock standing by itself that looks kind of like a stack of pancakes. Or at least it does to me. I might be a little hungry out here. But that is not Stack of Pancakes rock. That is Chimney Rock. It is said to resemble an old stick and mortar chimney. It is the second most photographed rock formation out here on the Upper Dells, right behind Stand Rock, which we will see at our second shore landing today. Now for our next rock formation, you'll have to use your imagination just a little bit for this one. Take a look off along our right-hand shoreline. You'll see that large part of the rocks that is very exposed and open. You can use imagination to see a face in that part of the rocks, with the part jutting out being a nose, the slit above is an eye, the slit below as a mouth, maybe even the forestry around it as a headdress. You can see what we like to call Black Hawk's profile. Now, Black Hawk was a Native American leader, not necessarily from around this area. He was a leader of the Fox and Sauk tribes from down closer to the Illinois and Iowa border. And he came up to this area before the Black Hawk War to ask the Native Americans around here, the Ho-Chunk, if they would assist him in the Black Hawk War. They did tell him no, they didn't want any part of the war. And it was actually rumored that while he was running from the government, that he spent some time on Black Hawk's Island, which I'll point out in just a little bit here. But that is not the case. He actually ended up in a town called Toma, about 40 miles north of here, and that is where he was captured. Now, if you guys take a look off to the left-hand side of the boat and down the water, notice that color real quick. All right, take a look off to the right-hand side of the boat down the water. Notice that color real quick. Does anyone have any observations? Well, I'll let you guys in on a little secret. They are the same exact color. Yes, I know it's very hard to tell. Now, the water gets its brownish color, not because it's muddy or dirty, but because of a substance known as tannic acid. Tannic acid comes from the tamarack swamps, tamarack trees in those swamps in the northern part of the state that this river runs through. Now, don't be fooled, tannic acid is not harmful in the least. In fact, you probably consumed it today. It's found in most coffees, teas, dark colored beverages like Coke and Pepsi, and the bottle of Jack Daniel's whiskey I polished off right before we left the dock. For legal reasons, that one is a joke. I'm only 19, so I have a few more years before I can do that legally. Now, all the different rock formations we're seeing out here today are all made up of the same kind of rock. They're all made up of what's known as Potsdam or Cambrian sandstone. This sandstone is very fragile. You could actually take a piece of it and crumble it between your fingers, and it would turn back into the sand that it formed from. It's also only found 4 places in the world, those being Potsdam, Germany, where it gets its name, Zurich, Switzerland, upstate New York, and right here in Wisconsin Dells is the largest deposit. In these rocks, you'll see many different colors like oranges, yellows, tans, even a couple of reds here and there. These all come from the different minerals found inside the rocks, like zinc, iron, copper, lead, manganese, and many more, giving all the nutrients that these trees need to grow directly from the rock with little to no topsoil. Coming up off in front of us to the left a little bit here, you'll see where the river actually splits. Over there, that is known as the Old Riverbed. Now, we cannot take the Old Riverbed with the Viking, as our boat needs about 5 feet of water to run, and it does get to about 3 to 4 feet in the Old Riverbed. So unless you guys want to get off and push a 40-ton boat off the beach, we're going to head in the other direction. Now, with the Old Riverbed and the path we will be taking called the Narrows Form is what's known as Black Hawk's Island. As I mentioned before, Black Hawk, it's named after the same Black Hawk that was rumored to be around here. Now, this is the largest island out here on the Upper Dells at about 220 acres. It's also home to all 106 native tree species to Wisconsin, so it is perfect for research purposes, which is why it is owned by the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Now, coming up along our left-hand shoreline here, you'll see all those different colors in the rocks that I was talking about before. To me, that area kind of looks like the inside of a Butterfinger. A couple people see that maybe? Well, I can assure you it does not taste like a Butterfinger. Now, I just tried it for breakfast this morning. It does not taste as good as it looks. Further off in front of the boat, along our left-hand side here, you'll see a rock jutting out off of Black Hawk Island here. Just past this first one, you'll see another one similar shape, similar size, also jutting out on Black Hawk Island with that orange and white slow no wave sign on it. These are known as the Twin Sisters. The first one here, her name is Kate. The second one there, her name is Duplicate. Now, of course, if they were guys, first one there, that'd be Pete. The second one, you'd be. What I said was if they were guys, first would be Pete, and the second one he would be. Well, what I said was if they were guys, first would be Pete, and the second one he'd actually be Duplicate. I don't know why you guys wanted me to keep repeating myself. Now, coming up onto our right-hand side here, over by this blue, you'll see that little cove tucked back into the rocks. That is known as Chapel Gorge. It is a beautiful place with the trees making a church-like canopy back in there. In fact, I've been told that it's so pretty back there, it might be a great place for a wedding. However, I do have to warn you, you see a marriage that starts on the rocks, ends on the rocks. As you can tell, it is a lot more narrow in here. Now, back in the 1800s, way before Wisconsin was known for its beer, cheese, and of course, the Green Bay Packers, we were known for the lumber industry. Back then, that lumber would be cut up in the northern part of the state, run down the river to mills. From there, it would be tied up into lumber rafts, and men called lumber raftsmen would run them along the river until they could be sold. Now, along their journey, the hardest part of their journey by far was here in the Narrows. That is because of the 90-degree turn coming up directly in front of the boat. Now, back then, the water was moving a lot faster through this area, as the water levels were about 15 feet lower than they are today. Water level was raised about 15 feet when the dam was built. So many times, once those lumber rafts got up here to this 90-degree turn, nicknamed the Devil's Elbow, the current would catch those lumber rafts, throw them into the rocks on the right-hand side of the boat, losing lots of lumber and even some lives. This gave way for a new profession out here on the river known as a standing river pilot. These were local men that would get on the lumber rafts with the lumber raftsmen and guide them through the Narrows until they were back in a safe territory, many times just down to the lower dells. Among these standing river pilots, the most notorious was a man by the name of Leroy Gates. Now, he was quite a showman. He actually left us what we like to consider the first business card out here on the river. It'll be coming up in just a moment off to our left, past where these rocks are jutting out in the next cove. The rocks facing towards us, you'll see a carving in the rocks about 8 feet above the water, just under the dark span of rock, that reads Leroy Gates, Dells and River Pilot from 1849 to 58. About our 10 o'clock position there. Easiest word to see is river. It's a little easier to see without sunglasses on. That is coming up directly to our left-hand side. Now, Leroy Gates was so notorious as his motto was that he would never lose any lumber or life. And he did hold true to that up until he lost his job. When the railroad company came into town, the lumber raftsmen decided that was a much safer way for them to transport their lumber, so they took the railroads instead of the river. Now, Leroy Gates was a very smart man. He actually started up his own business out here, known as the Dells Boat Tours. Does that ring a bell for anyone out here today? Maybe a couple? Well, for those of you that don't, welcome aboard the Dells Boat Tours. We're very happy to have you here. Now, back then, though, his model was a lot different than ours is today. See, you would give him 2 bits, and he would give you 2 oars. You You would then have to row yourself and him up and down this river for anywhere between 4 and 8 hours while he sat in the back of the boat underneath his umbrella, just sipping some lemonade and telling you stories. Does anyone want to try that one? I think we've got some oars downstairs. No takers? Darn. Now coming up off in front of the boat to the left a little bit there, you'll see by where those people are, that is the start of the old riverbed, marking the close of the 220-acre Blackhawks Island. We only saw about a quarter of it back in the Narrows there. The rest of it is along the old riverbed. Now coming into view along our right-hand side, you'll see those concrete docks coming up. Those lead into Coldwater Canyon. Now Coldwater Canyon used to be a stop along our tour. However, it did make our tour about 3 hours long. And well, we all know what happened last time someone took a 3-hour tour. Coldwater Canyon is still used today. However, it's only used for charters and our Ghost Boat tour, which I do highly recommend if you enjoy getting chased by a chainsaw. Further up along our right-hand side, you'll see where water does flow into Coldwater Canyon. It doesn't go too far, it's very shallow, very narrow, but it is quite beautiful scenery back in there. And keeping our eye along the right-hand shoreline here, you'll see coming up there is a giant slab of rock that is leaning up against all the others coming up. That is known as Giant Shield, and I bet you all could guess why. Giant Shield is a natural high water marker for us out here on the river. In 1993 and 2010, water levels reached the top of the Giant Shield, but the highest water ever got out here was 4 feet above the top of that shield in 1938. So for reference, that would have been about 4 feet above your heads up here on the top deck, kind of like some of my jokes. Now earlier this season, we actually saw a lot of high water, reached about halfway up the Giant Shield, and actually just last week, we were in some low water. Now all of this water fluctuation has actually brought a resident alligator to the area. Not too often we see those. I've been told that they like staying on the left-hand shoreline, so maybe we'll get lucky and see him. Oh, there he is on the second ledge in front of the boat, about 3 feet above the water with his mouth sticky open towards the river, just in front of where that tree broke off. Do you guys see him? Oh wait, sorry guys, that is not an alligator. That is our crocodile. Sorry guys, that one is mandatory. There are no actual crocodiles or alligators out here on the river, but there is quite a bit of wildlife. There are 37 species of fish in this water, many different birds that fly around, many insects, white-tailed deer, foxes, coyotes, rabbits, and even some bears every once in a while. Now don't worry, here in Wisconsin we do have a natural deterrent for bears. See, all you have to do is go to your local hardware store, get yourself a can of acrylic white paint, and grab a 3-inch paintbrush. Once you're home with that, dip that paintbrush in that white paint, and just paint yourself a nice white goal line. Because here in Wisconsin, those bears aren't getting past that goal line. Do you have any Bears fans up top here? No? That is a great looking crew. I like to see it. Now I mentioned we have a lot of different types of birds out here on the river. The most notorious are bald eagles, red-tailed hawks, great blue heron, and osprey. However, during the earlier summer months, we also see smaller birds that swoop in and out of the rocks and down by the water, known as cliff and bank swallows. At this point in the season, we don't see them anymore, but it is thanks to them that out here on the water, there is not a single mosquito left here in Wisconsin Dells. They do eat 2 to 3 times their body weight mosquitoes, but there's not a single mosquito left. So all the rest of them are married. Now, I've never been to a mosquito wedding before. I've heard they kind of suck. Alright, laughter is dead up here. Alright, at this point, I'll take that as my cue to set down the mic, give you guys a break from the bad jokes until we get to our next point of interest here. about them once you're up and down this river. And as we come around Steamboat Rock here, keep your eyes off to the right-hand side here. You'll see a dock attached to a set of stairs off to the right there. Now, I am many times asked, where do these stairs go? Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but those stairs don't go anywhere. They stay there all year long. Now, they do lead up to Chula Vista Resort. Chula Vista actually translates to mean beautiful view. And as you can see out here, they do have a beautiful view of the river. Now, about 100 years ago, all of this land along the river here was actually developed into homes and businesses. A man by the name of George Crandall had a hotel for himself along the river here, but he thought that the way the beauty of the river was being taken away was absolutely horrific. So, during the Great Depression, he actually bought up all of this land for about $1 an acre when all of those businesses and homes were going under, and he took down all of those buildings along the river and ended up planting 130,000 trees. Now, when he passed away, he gave this land to his two daughters. When they decided it was way too much for them to handle, they passed it on to the Wisconsin Alumni Research Foundation. Now, they held on to it for quite some time. They eventually also passed it on to the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, who still currently holds it. All of this land on the river here is a state natural area, which has so many protections that even has more than some national parks in it. Now, we do like to remember George Crandall. The forest onto our right-hand side is the George Crandall Memorial Forest. There's a couple of hiking trails up there if you are interested in that. Come find me at the shore landings or ask me as I'm coming around for questions later on today. But otherwise,